From Dustin Neielson, why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than in other sports?
A ring is a team accomplishment.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For so many reasons.
I was super, super ecstatic to win one for Cleveland because of the 52-year drought. Like, I was ecstatic.
A ring is a team accomplishment.
And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all.
And I was like, you did something special.
When it comes to modern-day NBA players, there's no single person more obsessed, self-aware, and love of their own legacy more so than LeBron James. As looking at all of his interviews, it's always me, my, a lot of eyes, talking about his legacy, his greatness, and his standing in NBA history. And looking at the Mind the Game podcast, kind of the exact same thing. Alongside Steve Nash, what this podcast is non-stop propaganda, rewriting LeBron's legacy and rewriting the standards of NBA history.
Why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than in other sports?
I don't know, man. It's just like you sit here and you tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, you know, are fucking wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys is because this guy won one ring or won two rings.
So stopping that right there, LeBron's overall premise that guys like Iverson, Steve Nash, and Barkley aren't appreciated and recognized as great players, that from the jump is inaccurate. Iverson, despite having 0 championships, is beloved by all NBA fans. Someone like Steve Nash, also very popular, and then Charles Barkley, an iconic legend. To say fans don't know those guys were great players, top 75 guys, that is completely false.
He's a liar.
Now, with that being said, looking at players' legacy, a Hall of Fame level player, all those guys are great players, a baseline level of greatness. But to be one of the greatest ones of all time, what that requires is championships, and most likely multiple championships at that. And looking at someone like Charles Barkley, despite being ringless, he understands that because it's common sense.
I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I'm in a different wing than the guys who won the championship. I mean,
Still in the Hall of Fame, though.
I know, yeah, but I'm saying, though, Jack, hey, I understand. I understand the rules. Like, Charles are great, Karl Malone's great, Patrick Ewing's great. They're not at the table with Magic, Bird, LeBron, Kobe. It's levels to this shit. And I ain't mad at that. I understand that.
For someone like Barkley right there to be completely honest and open, the championships, they do in fact matter. That takes some big time guts as a ringless superstar who gets ragged for that constantly. And looking at guys like Stockton, Malone, Ewing, those guys also are great players despite being ringless. But like Charles said, when you're ranking tiers of greatness, those guys aren't at the table with guys like Magic, Bird, Jordan, the upper echelon, the greats of the greats.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
One of the biggest crimes in sports nowadays is the term ring culture having a negative connotation. As when it comes to quote-unquote ring culture, what that really means is winning culture. For an NBA superstar specifically, winning a championship, reaching the pinnacle of the mountaintop, that since the 50s is what you played for. You didn't play for stats and numbers, the individual glory. What you played for was a pursuit of winning. Now ask yourself, when did that begin changing? I'd say the late 2000s, early 2010s, when a certain player was coming up short on the big stage. And since then, winning's been downplayed, discredited, and been written off as quote-unquote ring culture.
You know, it's all about winning championships and winning. You know, the stats that matter to me is the games that we win and the rings that you collect. It changed from player to player. Magic Johnson, obviously, because of his notoriety, and Larry Bird, his notoriety, that we had to get past them, or I had to get past them individually before I gained any credibility or can ever get into their ballpark. I had to win championships, I had to win MVPs, I had to make impacts on my team. So that became a challenge for me.
For someone like Michael Jordan, who had all the MVPs, stats, individual accolades, what he cared about most was winning championships. And looking at his overall career arc, It was the embodiment of pursuing titles. As he first came to the NBA, an absolute dynamo on fire, scoring 40, 50 points, breaking all types of records. But by the early 90s, reeled it back in to a championship player and a winning player. And even looking at Kobe, the exact same thing. 2006's stats, off the charts surreal, the best stats in the NBA. But to Kobe, those numbers, they are kinda hollow. At that point, what was his big time goal? Not scoring accolades total points, but winning championships without Shaquille O'Neal. And when it was all said and done, he sacrificed, took a step back, and ultimately did that in 2009 and 2010.
When Shaq leaves, you can't win. I said, oh shit, yes I can.
You proved them wrong. You proved them wrong, Playboy.
That happened. That became my motivation. That became my passion, and I was obsessed with it. And here we go.
We know what it means as a team, but what about individually for you?
Just got one more than Shaq.
When you contrast guys like Kobe and Jordan, LeBron James, the stark difference becomes very, very apparent. As LeBron nowadays is the only big-time major athlete who downplays winning with a pejorative of ring culture. And here's the bizarre thing. LeBron in the past has not done this. What is LeBron's crowning achievement that to him made him the GOAT? Was it his points, longevity, total stat numbers, even his game winners? No. His crowning achievement was that one singular championship in 2016.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For so many reasons.
I was super, super ecstatic to win one for Cleveland because of the 52-year drought. Like, I was ecstatic.
A ring is a team accomplishment.
And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all.
And I was like, you did something special.
It's pretty obvious LeBron James, he wants it both ways. When he wins, it's LeBron accomplishment, to boost himself up, a lot of me's, I's, my legacy, my championship. It's all about LeBron James. Now when LeBron loses, it's the exact opposite. All of a sudden winning championships, it's a team accomplishment and a team failure. And ring culture is the worst thing in sports.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
And let's clarify something very, very quickly. When it comes to winning championships, the credit for those titles isn't given out equally. Look at someone like Steve Kerr, a multi-time champion, a journeyman, and a very good role player who hit timely shots. Steve Kerr having a ton of championship rings, I'm not gonna say he's better than Charles Barkley, who was an NBA superstar, a #1 option. That makes zero sense. For people with LeBron James' mindset to say championships is purely a team accomplishment, they're being highly disingenuous. And when they say guys like Robert Horry, he has 7 rings, Jordan has 6, is Horry better? Those arguments are straw man arguments. When we're comparing championship players versus non-championship players, what we're comparing is a top tier 1% of players.
Thank you!
And looking at LeBron's own career in South Beach, Cleveland, and Los Angeles, what's he been pursuing the entire time? Not just more help, but also championships. If championships don't really matter, ring culture sucks, why play into it? Why have Kyrie and Love, Wade and Bosh, and then Anthony Davis? Why have that? Just play basketball, have fun, a good old time with the fellas.
To win championships. Not one, championships.
Not 2.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
Did Pat Riley drop the rings on the table during his meeting with you also? Or
Of course he did.
He did? Oh, that's cool as hell.
For someone like Pat Riley getting Chris Bosh and LeBron James, his one big time selling point was championships and those 9 rings he already had. For LeBron back then, he understood that. And even in 2016, understood it fairly well. After that championship, what did he say over and over again? Who he is chasing is the ghost that played in Chicago.
What do you mean by that?
It's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has 1 ring. They don't never discuss that in their sport.
Right.
Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time. Or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things. Barry Bonds never won a World Series.
So.
You can't sit here and tell me that he's not the greatest baseball player to ever touch a bat.
So stopping that right there, LeBron James, going cross-sports comparison, looking at the NFL as well as MLB. And this right here, the dumbest thing you could possibly do. As looking at both the sports compared to basketball, it couldn't be more different. For an NBA roster, there's 15 guys on a team, 5 guys on the court playing offense and defense. In the NFL, it's upwards of 50, 11 on 11, offense, defense, and special teams. Unless you're Travis Hunter, you're not playing both ways. So the cross-sport comparison with basketball, football, and baseball really makes no sense.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot.
At the end of the day, the entire ring culture discussion comes back to one thing and one thing only. LeBron James wanted to be the GOAT over Michael Jordan. That's what it's about, plain and simple. Everyone knows it. Why he's downplaying championships is because Jordan has more. It's that simple. And again, rings aren't the end-all be-all, but they're a big-time component to being a great player and the greatest player who ever lived. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.